You think you just decided to read this. You think it was your choice. A free, conscious decision made by you. The person you imagine is sitting behind your eyes, steering everything you do. But the real answer is far stranger. Right now, you feel like the author of your life. You wake up. You choose coffee or tea. You pick a song, a route, a word. It feels obvious. It feels like the most certain thing in the entire world. Who else could possibly be making these choices if not you? That feeling has a name. Scientists call it the sense of agency. For almost all of human history, nobody thought to question it. The choice seemed to rise up from somewhere deep inside, somewhere private, somewhere that was unmistakably you. Then a quiet neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet decided to test it. In the early 1980s, at the University of California, Libet sat people down in front of a fast-moving clock. The task was simple. Whenever they felt the urge, they were to flick their wrist. Just a small, free movement, and they were to remember exactly where the dot on the clock was at the precise instant they decided to move. Meanwhile, electrodes on their scalp quietly watched their brains. He was looking for the moment a decision is born. What he found broke something. The brain showed a slow rising spike of electrical activity, a wave called the readiness potential, before the person felt any conscious intention to move at all. Not by a little, by about half a second. Your brain had already begun the action while you still believed you were making up your mind. Sit with what that means. The decision to move was already unfolding in your neurons, and only afterward did the feeling of deciding arrive, like a message delivered to your conscious mind long after the order had been signed. You experienced choosing, but the choosing had started without you. Maybe half a second is too small to trust. Maybe Libet measured something noisy, something blurry, a flicker that meant nothing. For years, careful scientists argued exactly that. The objection was fair. So the question did not die. It grew. In 2008, a researcher named John Dylan Haynes pushed it much further. He placed people inside an fMRI scanner, a machine that watches blood flow through the living brain in real time. He asked them to press one of two buttons, left or right, whenever they wanted, and to report the moment they felt the choice arrive. Then he trained a computer to read the shifting patterns in their brain activity. The computer could predict which button they would press, up to 7 seconds before they felt they had decided. 7 full seconds. Long enough for the outcome to be quietly written into the deep folds of the brain while the conscious mind sat in the dark, waiting to be told what it wanted. The hand had not moved. The person felt nothing yet. And the answer was already there. How free is a choice your brain has already made before you know about it? Now, be careful here. This does not mean a scientist can read your future like an open book. The predictions were better than chance, not perfect, and the brain is not a simple machine spitting out fixed answers. But the direction of the discovery is very hard to escape. The action begins below. The awareness arrives above, and the order is not the one you feel. So if you are not making the decision in the instant you think you are, then who or what is? To understand that, you have to meet some of the strangest patients in the history of neuroscience. There is a thick bridge of nerve fibers connecting the two halves of your brain. It is called the corpus callosum. It lets the left and right hemispheres share everything they see, hear, and think, so that you feel like one person and not two. In the 20th century, surgeons discovered that cutting this bridge could stop severe epileptic seizures from spreading across the brain. The operation worked. It saved lives. But it created people whose two brain halves could no longer talk to each other. A neuroscientist named Michael Gazzaniga spent decades studying them, and what he saw should unsettle anyone who believes there is a single, unified you living inside their head. In a split-brain person, each hemisphere controls one side of the body and sees one half of the world. So Gazaniga could show an image or a word to only one half of the brain and keep the other half blind to it. In one now famous case, he flashed the instruction to walk to the right hemisphere alone. The person stood up and began walking. Then Gazaniga asked a simple question. Why are you getting up? Here is the strange part. The left hemisphere, the side that controls speech, had never seen the instruction. It had no idea why the body was moving. But it did not say, I do not know. It did not pause or shrug or look confused. Instead, it instantly invented a reason. I am going to get a drink, the person said, calm and completely sincere. The decision came from one place. The explanation came from another. And the explanation was a story, made up on the spot, believed without question. Gazaniga called this part of the brain the interpreter. Its job is to take whatever your body and your deeper systems have already done and weave a smooth, confident narrative that makes it feel chosen, reasoned, and yours. The interpreter is the voice you hear as you. It is the narrator of your life. And it is very, very good at pretending it was in charge the entire time. Does that voice in your head sound familiar? Now look back across your own day with this in mind. You reach for your phone before you notice you wanted to. You say something sharp in an argument and only afterward assemble the reason you said it. You fall for someone, then spend months explaining a pull that arrived long before any of the explanations. You buy the thing, take the job, send the message, and the justification always seems to come a half step too late, rushing to catch up with a choice that has already happened. The feeling of deciding keeps arriving after the fact. The story keeps arriving to cover the gap. The psychologist Daniel Wegner gave this a name. He called it the illusion of conscious will. In his work, he argued that the feeling of willing an action is not the cause of the action. It is more like a readout, a signal your mind generates afterward to tell itself this one was mine. Useful, reassuring, but not the engine. The engine is somewhere else, running in the dark, faster and far older than the voice that steps forward to take the credit. And here is where it gets stranger still, because that hidden engine was never built for truth. It was built for survival. For millions of years, your ancestors did not have the luxury of deliberation. A shape moves in the long grass. A face turns suddenly hostile. A piece of fruit smells faintly wrong. The body that stopped to consciously reason through every signal was the body that got eaten, that starved, that never lived long enough to pass on its genes. So evolution handed the fast, automatic systems the wheel. They decide. They move you. They keep you breathing. The conscious narrator came later, riding on top, brilliant for planning and language and explaining yourself to the rest of the tribe, but never the true source of the split-second choice. You are not the captain of the ship. You are the member of the crew who writes the captain's log, then reads it back and assumes the log gave the orders. So does this mean you have no freedom at all? That every choice is already fixed, and you are nothing but a passenger watching it happen? Not so fast. Notice something. You are doing it right now. You are reflecting. You are turning this strange idea over in your hands, testing it, maybe quietly resisting it. That capacity, the power to pause, to reconsider, to catch an impulse and refuse it, is real, and it is astonishingly rare in the animal world. Libet himself pointed straight at it. Even if the urge to act begins before you are aware of it, he suggested there may still be a narrow window in which the conscious mind can veto the action before it happens. Free will, if it exists, might not be the power to start a movement. It might be the power to stop one, a small power, but not nothing at all. And maybe that quietly reframes the whole question. You spend your life believing you are the one giving the orders. But perhaps your truer freedom was never in the giving. Perhaps it was always in the noticing. That thin sliver of a second where you catch the impulse rising, the reflex reaching for the phone, the anger already loading the words into your mouth, and you realize you do not have to obey it. The narrator cannot stop a thought from appearing, but it can choose, sometimes, not to act on it. And a life is built out of those small refusals. So the next time you feel that crisp, clean certainty that you decided something, stop and sit with it for a moment. Feel how solid it is. Feel how completely it seems to belong to you. How impossible it feels that it could have come from anywhere else. And then remember that the decision was almost certainly already moving through your neurons before that feeling ever arrived, and that the certainty itself is just the final layer, a story your brain tells to keep the whole world feeling like yours. You did not just decide to read this. Something in you began reading, and only afterward did a quiet voice step forward, take hold of the wrist and say, "That was me. That was my choice. I am the one who chose."